Guys, I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. It's great to be with you guys on the first day of the week, a soggy Monday in downtown Charlottesville. And boy, do we have a lot to cover on the program today. So much so that there's items that did not make the rundown of headlines that you see on screen. I still want to highlight those numbers and get them out of my notebook to you, the viewer and listener. Look, all of us right now that have any kind of retirement, associated with the stock market are uncertain at best, petrified and scared and shaken most likely. It's normal. Everybody's got an opinion on where things are going to go. If the volatility is going to continue, if it's a buying opportunity, if we're at the bottom, if we're heading to a global recession, things are going to get ugly. I don't think anyone really has those answers, folks. You turn on CNBC, you read Wall Street Journal, listen to Bloomberg, everyone's got a take. What we do know is these tariffs that Donald Trump is rolling out. A lot of countries, a lot of investors just don't like them. And the sell-off of the last handful of days has been pretty significant. And I empathize for the viewers and listeners who are, older in age that rely on their 401ks and their IRAs and their stocks and equities and their portfolios to fund their lives. And, I think we're in store for a lot of uncertainty moving forward. And no one likes uncertainty. My kids don't like uncertainty on the weekends when they don't know if they can play outside or have ice cream or ride their scooters or enjoy what they like to do. Your money and your retirement certainly does not like uncertainty. And what I'm going to try to do on today's program is try to localize what's happening on the national media. How's it going to impact Charlottesville? I've been in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia for 25 years now. Jude, if you want to rotate some shots, maybe some studio cameras. I don't know if you can do some picture-in-picture with me on the studio camera, just for a little bit of dynamic one-shot monologue. I trust your creativity, sir. I'm really grateful for you. I've been in Central Virginia for 25 years, and really right now I've seen in those 25 years that I've been here, 25 years this August, I've seen as much challenge and headwind, as many headwinds as I've seen in 25 years. I mean, give me a moment to kind of just break this down for the Charlottesville area. Right now we're having, stock market hemorrhaging to the point of levels that are worse than what we saw at the onset of COVID. The last 3 days have been so bad, that they're of historic significance bad. That's one obvious headwind. I don't care where you live, whether it's Greenwich, whether it's Vail, Colorado, whether it's the Gold Coast, whether it's the toniest of places in Miami or South Florida. The stock market and your retirement determines your confidence, your willingness to spend and consume. And that certainly applies for Charlottesville. Are we insulated by a lot of national trends in Charlottesville? Yes. Does it still impact? Most certainly it does. So it's an obvious headwind what's happening with Wall Street. Another headwind that's happening at the exact same time, and it's in a lot of ways directly tied to Trump, not a lot of ways, but is tied to Trump, is the University of Virginia is in the midst of some challenges. You're freezing right now the basic cost of living wage increase for University of Virginia employees. A measly 3% year over year an expected 3% raise for faculty. And that is now frozen. I want you to think about that. Your employer, a 3% raise not being bestowed upon you. That's not keeping up with inflation to begin with. And now that 3% is on ice. On top of that, the University of Virginia is putting also on ice, also freezing, performance-based bonuses. It's also freezing new hires, including hires that were already in the hopper. It's freezing discretionary spending tied to research or academic expansion. That type of spending, whether you're expanding your lab, you're bringing on a graduate assistant, you need more technology, more equipment. I'll put it in perspective. We had a tenant that got significantly behind on their rent. Talking significantly behind on their rent. And as a landlord or as someone that works with landlords, you never want to be in the position where you have to start repossessing equipment, where you're locking doors and saying you're so behind on the rent, we're going to change the locks and have to bring you to court. And we have to then repossess your laboratory, your biotechnology laboratory equipment because you're so behind on the rent. And then I'm leading this charge and selling this equipment for pennies on the dollar in the secondary market, utilizing our reach in social media and digital marketing to sell equipment that's valued over a couple $100,000, $250,000, and selling it for 25, 40, 50 cents on the dollar to recoup some of the back rent. And university labs and faculty members that were chomping on the bit to buy this equipment from us at the start of the fourth quarter and into December of last year have now reached out to us and said, can't do it now. Not allowed to spend the money. I understand you're selling it for 40, 50, 60, 70% off of what we could buy it for. It's a fantastic deal. We can't spend the money. There's a second obvious headwind here, and no cost of living raises, no performance-based bonuses, and stopping consumer spending. How about a third headwind for Charlottesville and Central Virginia? Have you guys seen the retail and restaurant sector locally? Sectors that are tied to labor, sectors that are tied to consumer spending. Have you seen it? The sledding is not smooth right now. To say it's riddled and littered with moguls is an understatement. Been here 25 years, and this is the most challenging environment I've seen, perhaps since COVID, but I call the pandemic an anomaly. So I'm going to do my best to try to localize what's happening nationally here in a 10.2 square mile city and a region we call Central Virginia that's roughly 300,000 people strong. Right now, the real estate's still holding up. Values are still increasing. Median sales prices are still increasing. Median family household income, $125,800. The AMI was just released last week. We covered it on the show. I want to try to characterize the fragility of what's happening on Preston Avenue and on Main Street and on Market Street and on Route 29 and on 5th Street extended on today's show. I want to highlight the fact that Reid's grocery sold for $5.5 million, $5,500,000. And you know what? Props to the family behind Reid's to get out at this point, especially with the headwinds I just described coming. $5,500,000 for the Reid's building when in 2025 it was assessed at $3,330,000. Twice as nice must have really wanted that building, Judah, the nonprofit. No. And how about a nonprofit that's got $5,500,000 to dish out? Obviously, there's probably some loan on that purchase. We'll talk the Kilwins building. I know this one intimately. Looked at the Kilwins building for my personal portfolio. I want to talk the thousands that protested on Route 29 in Stonefield over the weekend. Good night. What a turnout, Judah. What a turnout. Don Lemon was in attendance at the protest over the weekend. Yes, that Don Lemon, the talking head. We'll talk to Bert Ellis. He's on the I Love CVille show on Wednesday, the fired Board of Visitors member. He's confirmed. He's locked and loaded. He's going to join us on the show. What questions do you have for Mr. Ellis? I'll gladly relay them to him live on air. Judah, if you can go to the studio camera, we'll weave you in with a two-shot, and I want to thank Charlottesville Sanitary Supply for being a part of the show, and I encourage you, the viewer and listener, now more than ever, to support the small businesses you want to see survive. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply on East High Street, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. John and Andrew Vermillion are doing business the honest way, the right way, the communicative way, the customer service way. And if we want Charlottesville and Central Virginia to remain the Charlottesville and Central Virginia we love, with brands, with institutional history and legacy, we need to realize that we're going to have to support these businesses either in person or directly through their websites, as opposed to shopping online at Walmart and Amazon, where you can save a couple of bucks. Because the value proposition of a Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, the value proposition of a Pro Renata and Dr. John Shabe is considerably more for a community than what Amazon is going to do or what Walmart is going to do for our community. And if you want this community and our community to continue losing its charm, its personality, and it's eroding quickly. Look no further than First Night Virginia being no more. Look no further than the Dogwood Parade being no more. We broke both stories, that the Dogwood Parade is no more and First Night Virginia is no more, right here on the I Love CVille show. And then legacy media, old media followed us with the reporting. No more 4th of July fireworks. You guys want the 4th of July fireworks, the Dogwood Parade, First Night Virginia? You want these community events to return? Then we need to support businesses in this community that are willing to sponsor and underwrite these events. Because it's not Amazon and Walmart and Target that are sponsoring and underwriting the Dogwood Parade or First Night Virginia. It's when volunteers go to locally owned businesses and say, we need your help returning the Dogwood Parade to Charlottesville or First Night Virginia to Charlottesville and the fireworks in Charlottesville. Who do the organizers go to? They go down Main Street, Market Street, Preston Avenue, hat in hand, and say, what can you do to help? We'll put your branding position on the event. Help us bring this back to our community. That's the value of supporting local, one of the many values. A lot I want to cover on the show, Judah. And viewers and listeners, I ask for a small favor from you. Will you like and share the show? Just like John Blair has done, like Bill McChesney has done. Thank you, William. We're grateful for you. Tag someone in the comments. Ginny Who, thank you. We're grateful for you. Judah, we got a lot to cover. We had, God, did you see the drone footage of the protest on Route 29 in Stonefield?
Yeah, they did a good job.
A significant turnout.
No doubt.
The organizers of the hands-off Trump protest on Stonefield and Route 29, you guys did a damn good job. I was impressed with how many people showed up. It's not about politics. It's not about who we voted for. Your turnout of people was impactful. Those who supported the opposite cause, led by Philip Andrew Hamilton, your turnout, peanuts compared to the other side of the aisle. I want to talk about that on today's show. I want to talk on today's show the Reid's building selling for $5,500,000. Good night, goodness gracious. Way above the 2025 assessment. I'm going to talk the Kilwins building selling. Charlie Kabash, good job selling your building and the apartments above it. I looked at it. I want to have that conversation on today's show. I want to talk about how this volatility globally and nationally is going to impact Charlottesville. I'm starting to get concerned it's going to impact Charlottesville a little bit. What intrigues you the most about what we're going to cover today, my friend? Judah Wickhauer.
I think it's amazing that Reid's building sold for almost $2.2 million over the asking price, or
Over the assessment.
The assessment. That's pretty incredible. I mean, we all know that that Charlottesville property is at a premium right now because there's not a whole lot of growing going on, but they really wanted that property, or maybe they were just being generous to the family.
I don't think they were being generous to the family, the nonprofit.
Neither do I.
Well, but I want to applaud the sisters for getting $5.5 million for the Reid's building.
Yeah.
Why don't we put the Reid's lower thirds on screen? I know we're jumping ahead here. We will get to the thousands protesting outside Route 29 in Stonefield. Deep Throat, I'm going to get to your comments here in a matter of moments, which I think are spot on. Look, the family behind Reid's, an institutional business locally, the best butcher shop, some would say, in the market. A lot of people would say that. The best meat selection, a lot of people would say, in the market. Their time had passed with owning and managing and running a grocery store. A GoFundMe was launched, and the GoFundMe did not seem to get the business back on track. They did everything they possibly could. They did digital panhandling. Call it digital fundraising, call it digital panhandling, whatever you want to call it. They had to lay people off. They did a public relations campaign where they begged the community for support. The reality is, and by now it's well documented here on the I Love CVille show, the grocery business has changed dramatically. And if we continue to prioritize online ordering, and my family falls victim to this, online ordering, Instacart ordering, or prioritizing big box stores, we're going to see more of the little guys go by the wayside. And this particular little guy said, you know what? We're going to close the doors. We've lost a lot of money trying to keep this brand, this family business afloat. We understand the value of the real estate, and we're going to sell. And $5.5 million is a payday. And they were able to do it in a way where they preserved the integrity or the structure of the building, where all of us can say, I remember when that was a grocery store. I remember when they had one of the best craft beer selections in the market. I remember when we got our pork chops there, our strips there. I remember when we got pig's ears there. I remember this experience of shopping there. And that has value. Those memories have value. And the sisters who made the sale understand the value of memories. Because that could have sold to a developer who would have torn down the building and built something in its stead, in its place.
Stead.
I'm very, very happy for them to get this kind of payday. Okay? And now we have some kind of clarity of what was paid. Do we think twice as nice overpaid? Only the market knows that. Only the market knows that. Only the offers the sisters had in front of them would know. They're the ones that would know if they overpaid or not. $2,200,000 above assessment, it's pretty significant. Keeping the business as a thrift retail kind of concept, or evolving the business into a retail thrift concept, good for you guys. That seems like a challenging model to run. The thing you have going for you is that stuff is donated. So you're not necessarily paying for the widgets you're selling. The items that consumer mindset that you have going against you is the dominance of online shopping. And it's not just shopping through e-commerce stores anymore. If you're following now, social media is now a live streaming shopping experience where influencers are utilizing their massive followings in live streaming shopping where people can buy what they're shopping or selling in real time. A lot of people say that's the future of shopping now. where you're following influencers, people of clout, and they go live on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok on YouTube, and they have a closet in front of them, or they have a bunch of Pokemon cards, or a bunch of baseball cards, or a bunch of footballs or basketballs or squash rackets, a bunch of shoes, a bunch of jackets, and they say, we're going to live stream until what we have in front of us is sold. And we'll pack it up and we'll send it to you once the stream is over. Are you familiar with the app? I'm now getting into this. The app called Whatnot.
I don't think so.
Whatnot is the app, and it's an app that's gaining significant traction and seems to be eating TikTok's lunch in this regard. And it's a live auction app that allows folks of influence to live stream and auction whatever they're selling to the highest bidder in real time. And because you get caught up in the excitement and the movement of the live stream and of the auction, it's like, I got $1 here, I got $1 here, I got a $2 here, I got this pair of Nikes for $10 here, $20 here, $30. You get caught up in the movement, the price, you're selling for insane numbers. And as soon, all you have to do is click a button during the live stream, and it's tied to your Apple Wallet or your PayPal or your bank account, and the money is drawn.
Wow. I guess not everybody's hurting for money.
Well, that's the thing. The digital influencer, and this is why the young millennial or the Gen Zer is so eager to if you ask them today, if you ask the young millennial and the Gen Zer, what do you want to be when you grow up? The
influencer.
Over the more than the majority, the large portion says, I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you sit in a couch, you sit in a chair behind a camera, you travel wherever you want to go, and you make money. But take it from somebody who's live streaming and using social media and digital marketing and iPhones and technology and applications and apps to make money. It is not easy to make money this way. It's taken us a long way to figure this out. $5.5 million for the grocery building on Preston Avenue, and it was assessed in 2025 for $3,330,000. Congratulations to the family on this payday.
No doubt.
Congratulations. I want to get to this comment, and this could lead us into how will the global market volatility impact the Charlottesville area if you put that lower third on screen. This is from number one in the family, Deep Throat. Charlottesville is definitely getting hit in the sensitive spots. He says these are the big themes he sees. Cuts to government funding with the university. UVA is our main engine of growth, and dings to financial assets. Huge concentration of wealthy retirees here. He also says, by the way, if it is really the case that there is a great shortage of multifamily housing in town, how come the buyer of a prime piece of land zoned for density sold to a secondhand shop? He's talking about the Reid's building. I sincerely would like to know this answer with the multifamily Reid's sale, with the sale of Reid's. Did the family that sold Reid's choose Twice as Nice as their buyer because Twice as Nice was committed to keeping the building the shape of Reid's, the structure of Reid's? Did the family that owned Reid's pass on other offers, even potentially better offers from developers who could have built apartments in its place? I would like to know that answer. Will I know that answer? I don't know. I want to know that, though. Because the upside, I'll take it a step further here. And this is a comment that is not meant to be insensitive. It's just a crystal ball predictive type of comment. In the long run, I don't see Twice as Nice, who is spending who has spent $5,500,000 on this. They've already said on record they're getting a loan for this purchase. Of course they are. I don't see Twice as Nice being here long term. Long term is relative, of course. It's relative. I see this building long term being a apartment complex, multifamily housing of some kind. And eventually, Twice as Nice is going to be in the same predicament Reid's is. And that predicament is going to be the asset we own, the dirt under our business, is more valuable than what we can do on this dirt running our business. I want to say that again.
Yeah.
There's many businesses in Charlottesville that fall in this category. And I hate to say this. It's effing soul-crushing for me to say this. Even effing soul-crushing for me to say this as somebody who makes his living in real estate. It's still soul-crushing for me to say this, okay? There are so many businesses in the Charlottesville area where the dirt under their business is more valuable than the actual business they are running today. Mm-hmm. And that is just a kick in the nuts to an entrepreneur and someone who loves Charlottesville. And I adore this community to the point where one of my businesses is called I Love CVille. But that's going to be twice as nice as
Legacy?
Future, where eventually they're going to say, good God, we bought this for $5.5 million. We're paying this month and this much a month in debt service. We're paying this much in debt service. We could just sell this to this developer and pay off everything that we owe. Mm-hmm. And then cash reserve our nonprofit. And then go to this location over here because, frankly, we're a destination nonprofit selling thrift stores and secondary items that are donated to us. We don't need to be in a Class A corridor, a primo corridor. This is a destination. People are going to come to us because they want discounted stuff.
Right.
Right? If you're a thrift store and you have quality goods, people will drive to you. You don't need to be on Preston Avenue. He adds this comment, and then I'll open it up to the viewers and listeners. Twice as nice as a nonprofit. Does this mean that the property comes off the tax rolls? Not sure of the rules here. All nonprofits exempt or just education? That's a great question for John Blair if you're still watching, John. Deep Throat #1 in the family asked this question, and John would know this. Twice as nice as a nonprofit. Does this mean that the property comes off the tax rolls? Not sure of the rules here. All the nonprofits exempt or just education? Is it just UVA that's exempt there, John, on the taxes? Mr. Blair would know that answer. I don't have that answer for you. It's a great question. Kevin Yancey says there are no locals left in the grocery business. Respectfully, I push back on that. There are locals still left in the grocery business. Is it Raphael next door that owns the Market Street Market grocery store? He also owns the Crozet IGA. He's a local in the grocery business. Okay? Ted Anderson is doing his damn best. Anderson Seafood and Catering one time had a fantastic little grocery-type business across from Barracks Road Shopping Center and the Meadowbrook Shopping Center. Now he's posted up on Ivy Road a handful of days a week. Support Ted Anderson on Ivy Road. The guy's got fantastic seafood.
Great seafood.
Great seafood. Great family. Still locals in the grocery business. But explain to me, and I'm getting passionate today on the show. Explain to me a local business right now that you are a local category of business that you are super bullish on right now.
An entire category?
A line of business, a silo of business, a category of business locally that you're super bullish right now.
I'm going to give that some thought.
Give it some thought. Viewers and listeners, give me that answer. And Yancey says that building was built in the 80s. He said, twice as nice, get ready for what's to come for a building built in the 80s. Give me a local line, a local category that you're bullish on right now. Seriously.
Weed?
Judas says weed.
I mean,
I'm not throwing shade on weed.
I don't know if I can think of an entire...
Youngkin still hasn't greenlit it.
No.
Now, granted, you can pretty much sell weed and and no one's going to give you...
They're probably doing better because he hasn't. I mean, I don't know how much... how above board they are. But I would imagine that once things go fully legal, there's going to be more in the way of taxes and what ends up back with the city, region, and state.
John Blair has a comment. He says, as to the nonprofit question from Deep Throat, I do not believe it would come off the tax rolls. There are some specific real estate exemptions in the Code of Virginia, but Twice as Nice would not qualify for one of those exemptions. There's somebody that's number one in the family, Deep Throat, asking a question that I had no idea what the answer was. And then number two in the family, John Blair, answering it right there. As to the nonprofit question from Deep Throat, I do not believe the Twice as Nice and the Reid's building would come off the city tax rolls. There are some specific real estate exemptions in the Code of Virginia, but Twice as Nice would not qualify for one of those exemptions. John Blair, you just made us smarter right there. He also says, thank you for the kind words in the beginning of the show. And he says this, you should rotate the Reids and Kilwins lower thirds on screen with the global market volatility one, if you could, please, Sir Judah. Mm-hmm. John Blair also says, thank you for your kind words. If you looked at the Reid sale in isolation, you would say, wow. But I'd really like to hear your analysis of how that building, which is not located on the downtown mall, is drawing 5 times the price of the Kilwins building. That real-time comp is fascinating to me. That's why we included the comp in the rundown. I was going to get to this. John, effing love you, okay? I sincerely mean that. We put the Reid's sale and the Kilwins sale in the rundown for you to have a barometer of 2 prominent pieces of real estate and what they sold for. I know the Kilwins building intimately. Walked it, toured it. This is the tough aspect of the Kilwins building. And the Kilwins building, ladies and gentlemen, sold for $1,100,000. I think I talked with you about this. Did I talk with you about this, Deep Throat? The challenging aspect of the Kilwins building is the value of the building is tied to the Kilwins lease. And I'm not going to offer any details on the lease. I'm not going to offer any details on what the monthly rent is. I'm not going to offer any details on what the apartments on the second floor are renting for either. There's 2 of them, one facing the mall, one facing the back of the building. All I'm going to do, Cliff Fox, you listen to the show, you're representing Charlie Kabash in this sale. We talked about this, Charlie and Cliff. I'm going to talk about this in terminology and language and ways that is all public record and without in any capacity breaching any kind of NDA, okay? Everything I'm going to talk about is public record. There's 2 apartments above Kilwins. Public record. There's 1 apartment facing the downtown mall. Public record. 1 apartment facing the back of the downtown mall in a parking lot. Public record. Kilwins is at the storefront level and has been there for a long time. Public record. Our firm, VMV Brands, which you see behind us, our advertising agency, helped launch Kilwins on the downtown mall when Kilwins opened. Kip Pasternak, Jessica Pasternak, Denise, Jessica's mom, Kip's mother-in-law, they launched Kilwins on the downtown mall. And coming out of the gate upon launch, they caught resistance. Remember, Judah? The resistance they caught was the chain or franchise nature of Kilwins, especially opening next to Splendora's Gelato, couple doors down from Chaps.
Right.
And this was a time when the downtown mall, before COVID, where we pounded our chest and we said no chains on the mall. We pounded our chest and we threw shade at what was the name of the clothing store where Silverchair was?
Something Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters. Is it Urban Outfitters?
I think so.
Everyone raised their hands in the air and gave the 1-finger salute to Urban Outfitters opening. And when Corin opened Five Guys on the downtown mall, the Five Guys franchise on the downtown mall, everyone gave the 1-finger salute to Five Guys. Five Guys still there?
No.
Five Guys is closed, right?
That's where Vita Nova moved to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Judah. Urban Outfitters still there?
Nope. unless you count the guy squatting in front of it.
Squatting in front of urban. That's the most organized houseless man I've ever met.
Just about.
He literally stacks and stores all his stuff in bins, neatly organizes it, has a dog that lives there with him. He lives at Urban Outfitters, under Urban Outfitters. Mm-hmm. But my point is this. I've been here 25 years. There's 3 chains, franchises, whatever you want to call it, that have opened. National brands on the downtown mall, 8 blocks. Urban Outfitters tried, failed. Five Guys tried, failed. Kilwins still making it, but has had significant headwinds.
Yeah.
It's traded ownership. I believe it's still in the Pastor Mac family. This is all public record. I'm not talking out of course. I know a boatload about this because I was looking at buying it. I know a boatload about it, but I'm speaking Cliff and Charlie completely within course here. This is also within course, but it's a little bit more nuanced. The value of this building is tied to the lease of the storefront. If the tenant is unable to run their business successfully, and so far they've run their business very successfully, and if there's no tenant in place, the value of this building is not as great as if the tenant's paying their rent on time. That's me not speaking out of turn at all. That's just common real estate sense. A little bit more nuanced, but it's common real estate sense. You buy an asset like a commercial building, and the building is tied to the leases in the build. The value of the building is tied to the leases that are in the building. If the building does not have tenants, it's not as valuable as if the building has tenants. That's real estate valuing, folks. It's valuing real estate. And I made this assessment as a buyer. This is going to trade over $1 million. Do you, Jerry, with your wife and your money, think that the long-term potential of this building with this lease is something that you want to risk $1 million on? And then I said, Urban Outfitters, Five Guys. And I said, I don't think I'm going to make this play because of it. But somebody did. And they paid $1,110,000 for it. And the company has a registered agent based in Florida, a company called ETP Holdings LLC. Sean Tubbs, you do a good job breaking this down and your transactions and the transactions that you do. Now, to compare it and contrast it to the Reid's purchase. Viewers and listeners, your thoughts on this. Kilwins and Reid's. Reid's and Kilwins. Why did Reid's, viewers and listeners, sell for 5x of what Kilwins sold for? I'll say it again. Why did Reid's sell for 5x of what Kilwins sold for? This is the first thing I'm going to do to figure this answer out. I'm going to go to my web browser, Judah, and I'm going to type in Charlottesville GIS. Okay? And then I'm going to click the first link that shows up on screen. Oh, it's the Charlottesville GIS viewer. That's really cool. And then I'm going to go see what Sean Tubbs reported on Info CVille. Interesting. The Kilwins building, its address is 313 East Main Street. This is all public record. Anyone can do this. This is completely within course of hosting a podcast and absolutely no breach whatsoever of anything signed. I'm going to type in full address 313 East Main Street into the Charlottesville GIS 313 East. Oh, there it is, 313 East Main Street. I'm going to click search. Oh my gosh, ETP Holdings owns the Kilwins building. Wow, this tells me the assessment history. This tells me the ownership history, what people paid. Gosh, Charlie Kabash, I do a lot of business with his son, Chris. Charlie Kabash, he bought this building in 1990, Judah, for $210,000. He sold it 35 years later for $1,110,000. Nice little return, right? 210,000 purchased in 1990, 1,110,000 sold in 2025. Now I go to the summary, and it gives me the details. And in the details, you could see the building was built in 1920, and the gross area is 46,250 square feet. You got 4,650 square feet, not 46,000, correction. 4,650 total square feet. 4,650 total square feet. Storefront levels, 2,325 square feet. Second floor is 2,325 square feet. That's broken up over 2 apartments on the second floor, including one overlooking the mall. All right, so now I'm going to open another browser tab on my MacBook with the Chrome browser, and I'm going to type in Charlottesville GIS on my other browser tab. I'm going to click the first link. I'm then going to see what the address of the Reid's building. The Reid's building address. Let me see if I can find it. Sean's doing a great job, Tubbs, of organizing all these transactions. I'm scrolling through the transactions. I'm going to the bottom where the twice as nice purchasing reads. Oh, the address is 600 Preston Avenue. I'm going to type into the full address portion of the Charlottesville GIS, 600 Preston Avenue. I'm going to click search. There it is right there. Assessment history. Ownership history. Details. Interestingly, it looks like, and I'm not trying to throw shade here, he's got $3.33 million as the 2025 assessment. Here it says on 600 Preston Avenue that it's $2,736,000 is the assessment. But I'm going to stay focused. The details, it's 13,208 square feet. So you're talking 46250 was the Kilwins square feet. 4650. I'm going to times that by 3. And you get 13,950. So it's roughly the Reid's building 3 times the square foot. 3 times the square foot of Kilwins. You also got about almost an acre, 0.8 we'll call it for Reid's, the footprint. 0.8. Kilwins, I mean, you're on a post stamp. So are they identical comps? No. Are they visible comps? Yes. Are they third cousin comps? Second cousin comps? Perhaps. Should we ask a question why the Kilwins building sold for $1,110,000 and why did the Reid's building sell for $5,500,000 and why it's a 5x disparity? We should. Do we highlight the fact that Reid's has parking on site? We should. Do we know that Kilwins, a lot of people don't realize this, had some parking spaces on site behind the building? Yes. Do we know, this is public record, that those parking spaces behind Kilwins were being sold a la carte outside the building deal by a guy who was trying to maximize margin at closing? Yes, I think that's public record. That is public record. Spaces behind the Kilwins building were being sold outside of the sale of the building a la carte to maximize margin. Could you have added some parking spaces if you wanted to purchase the Kilwins building? Yes, but that was going to be a separate transaction. You know what a parking space sells for in Charlottesville, Virginia? What do you think a downtown parking space sells for in Charlottesville, Virginia? Viewers and listeners, what do you think a parking space in downtown Charlottesville sells for in Charlottesville, Virginia? Put it in the feed. Any viewer and listener that gets this right, well, you'll live forever in the walls of fame here.
Like you pay a one-time...
if I wanted to buy a parking space from somebody who owned parking spaces in downtown Charlottesville, and there's a lot of old guard OG Charlottesville that owns parking spaces that you can buy parking spaces from. How much do you think a parking space sells for in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia? Got a guess? Reasonable guess. Reasonable guess.
20,000.
Okay, Judah's in at 20K. Not a bad guess, my friend. Not a bad guess. Anybody want to take a guess on what a parking space sells for in Charlottesville, Virginia? Anybody? Should I give him an answer? Should I give it to him?
I don't know.
If you're able to buy a parking space in Charlottesville, Virginia right now for $50,000, you should jump on it. I've personally been a part of multiple single parking spaces being sold north of $50K.
Wow.
One parking space. North of $50,000 for one parking space right off the downtown mall. One parking space. Okay? So Charlie was smart to sell those parking spaces behind Kilwins, separate from the Kilwins building. 5x difference. Deep Throat says, I think the difference between the two properties, one, like you say, the Kilwins building is long-term lease while Reid's is empty, and two, Reid's has way more development potential, bigger lot, lower value structure on it, so you can tear it down. No bar restrictions at Reid's, serious bar restrictions if you want to do anything with Kilwins building. Board of Architectural Review is bar, folks. If you wanted to put a sign up on the building, had grandiose idea of purchasing the Kilwins building and having a sign up front, calling it like the Miller building, something like that. Utilizing the building for some branding. Spoke to my mentor about that. Bill Nichman owns a boatload of real estate. Do a lot of deals with him. He says, you know what? That's going to be much more challenging than you think to put up signage up there. Then he goes, all those awnings, all that signage, all that color, everything you see on those buildings, approval needed. And he says, Jerry, remember when you talked about on the show? I appreciate that he listens to the show. Remember when you talked about on the show that City Hall was trying to tell the merchants on the downtown mall what color their umbrellas were supposed to be on their alfresco dining at the restaurants?
Yeah.
Think about alfresco dining and them telling them what color their placemats and their umbrellas and their furniture outside was supposed to be. What do you think they're going to do with something permanent?
Yeah.
$5X though? Did twice as nice overpay? This is a serious question I have for you. Was the interest in the Reid's building so significant by developers, multifamily housing enthusiasts, and opportunists that twice as nice was told by the family, you need to get to this number if you want to purchase it. We prefer you to buy it because you're going to keep the structure the same and not tear it down and build housing.
But we can't give it to you.
But we're not going to take a pay cut or a haircut. So here's the number. We need you to get to 5.5. Like if you're Chris Henry and you're Stony Point and you own Dairy Market, and you're Chris Henry and you're Stony Point and you own Dairy Central, and you're Chris Henry and you're Stony Point and you own Ivy Square Shopping Center across the way where Integral Yoga and those other merchants are, did you not consider buying Reid's? I'm genuinely asking the question. I think Chris is a brilliant guy. He's certainly got a lot of money backing him and Paul Manning. Brilliant guy. Does great work. Love what he's done with the projects around here. He is the mayor of Preston Avenue, Chris. The mayor of Preston Avenue. Like Terry Hinderman's the mayor of Fry Springs. Like Stefan Freeman's becoming the mayor of the downtown mall with Draft Tap Room and Old Metropolitan Hall and Bonnie and Reid and Vitae Spirits. And that sushi joint behind Vitae Spirits, or inside Vitae Spirits. Damn good sushi. Of course you looked at the Reid's building. Kevin Yancey says $28K for a parking space. $28K, can't get it. No. north of 50,000 now. 3,600, Randy O'Neill says, for that parking space. 50,000 plus. I mean, think about it like this. If you were to rent a parking space in the Market Street garage or the Water Street garage, you're spending $135 a month. You're spending $135 a month, and then you're having to go up floors and walk. The parking spaces I'm talking about are selling right off the mall. 5.5 seems to be a bit rich. John says, I had the same thought as Deep Throat about the redevelopment potential with Reid's, but I just can't see Twice as Nice buying that property for redevelopment purposes. I agree, John. I don't think Twice as Nice is buying it for redevelopment purposes. I think Twice as Nice is buying it to legitimately run a thrift store operation out of it. And I think eventually the thrift store operation and the nonprofit that runs the thrift store is going to basically say the dirt under our thrift store is more valuable than the operation that we're actually running here. On top of that, we can put this operation anywhere and people will come to us because it's a destination business. And they're going to get offered a number, or they're going to come across some financial hardship or some kind of headache, and they're going to take it and they're going to peace out. I stand by the statement. The future of that corner on Preston Avenue is not going to be retail. The future of that corner is housing of some capacity. I stand by the statement. And we can make the argument that multifamily housing is soft right now and has significant headwinds. UVA requiring second years to live on grounds in the near future. We can talk about Graystar's project on Old Ivy Road by St. Anne's Belfield and the bypass, that massive dirt that we see undeveloped. We can talk the subtext property by Scott Stadium. 1,300 plus units by Scott Stadium. Graystar is basically building a little town on the bypass next to St. Anne's and Old Ivy Road. I mean, that's like an effing town over there. We can talk about all these projects coming online at the exact same time. We can say that's a glut. All right, 128 marker. Do you want to add any commentary on the protest that you saw at Stonefield?
I think you did a pretty good job exploring it. It's pretty wild that Don Lemon came to Charlottesville to be a part of it. It certainly was an incredible showing. I heard everything from 1,000 people to multiple thousands. Whatever the true number was, it's certainly impressive.
I'm going to add this question. If you put the right lower thirds on screen here, please. Was that the most significant protest in Charlottesville over the last 25 years from a numbers and turnout standpoint?
I would be surprised if there was another one that beat it out.
Was the Trump hands-off protest on Route 29 and the shops at Stonefield the most voluminous by number protest in Charlottesville since the year 2000 when I first arrived here as a first year at the University of Virginia? Were there more protesters and counter-protesters at August 12th, A12 and the downtown mall than what we saw on Saturday? Sincerely have that question. Do not have that answer. Can anyone answer the question, was that the greatest volume by numbers protest in Charlottesville that we have seen over the last 25 years? And were there more people there than were on Market Street, up and down Market Street, including in front of the I Love CVille studio on August 12th? And that's not about politics. That's not about Trump.
I think it may have been.
What?
I think it may be larger.
Do we have a number?
I'm looking at quick look at
I don't think there were
29 News says an estimated 4,000 demonstrators
at
Charlottesville protest at just the other day.
This is the problem. When people make estimates of attendance, it's impossible to get a true feel of what the attendance is. It's hard to count how many people are when you're standing right there.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know if that was the most significant by volume protest that Charlottesville's seen over the last 25 years. A generation. How many years are in a generation? How many years? 25 to 30 years, so a generation. The most significant protest we've seen in the Charlottesville area over the last generation. Was that it? And good God.
I'm guessing it likely was.
That says something right there.
Mm-hmm.
That says something right there. That says something right there when you consider August 11th and August 12th. That says something right there when you consider George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, and the fallout from George Floyd.
But that wouldn't have caused an unexpectedly large turnout in Charlottesville, would it?
The George Floyd murder was the momentum and spark for the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black Women Matter movement.
I know.
And all the offshoots.
Mm-hmm. And it was across the U.S.
It was across the U.S., yeah. What was the other one that was on where they hung Dave Norris in effigy? Oh, my God. Occupy Wall Street? Yeah. Was it Occupy Wall Street? Occupy. I think it was Was it the Occupy Charlottesville? Yeah, it was the Occupy Charlottesville movement. They hung Dave Norris in effigy at Market Street Park. I remember walking around there.
When was that?
That was in 2011 on Market Street. Occupy Charlottesville. Kevin Yancey says A12 was all over the city where the hands-off protest was in one spot.
That's true.
Logan Wells Claylo, thank you for watching the show. Reddy O'Neill, Philip Dow, thank you for watching the show. You may be looking at your biggest protest over the last generation, what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And that's a perfect segue into market volatility. And some of these topics we can utilize on tomorrow's show, including a reminder that Bert Ellis is on Wednesday's show. Governor Glenn Youngkin fired Bert Ellis from the Board of Visitors. Bert Ellis is coming on the show in a tell-all interview on Wednesday. You, the viewer and listener, can ask Bert Ellis a question. Let us know what you want us to ask Mr. Ellis. It's got to be a question that is not, how would I characterize what I'm looking for? Insulting? You're not going to insult the man here on my show, our show. We can ask challenging questions, but we're not going to insult the man. I want to carry this topic on to tomorrow's program because I think we're in for this for a little while here. I'll close with this. Market volatility. You got the Dow right now, 300 points down. The S&P 500, the Dow and the S&P 500 are teetering on bear market. Trump is going balls to the wall with China. Trump is going balls to the wall with a boatload of countries right now. And this tariff plan, some Trump supporters say if you're going to make an omelet, you got to crack some eggs. I hate that metaphor, by the way.
I mean, it's a fair metaphor, just maybe not the best place to use it right there.
Because of the eggs?
Because we don't yet know that we're getting an omelet.
Because we don't know that if the eggs that could be cracked could lead to salmonella death for all of us. Or it could lead to a nice bacon, egg, and cheese omelet. Let's hope it's not salmonella death. And let's pray it's a bacon, egg, and cheese omelet. Mm-hmm. Bacon and cheddar cheese omelet. But regardless, I've been here 25 years, actively involved in business for a large portion of those. Mm-hmm. I've never seen the headwinds we're facing right now with hiring freezes, with cost of living raises put on ice, performance-based bonuses put on ice, discretionary spending put on ice. With the internet clearly cannibalizing a lot of local business, restaurant and retail specifically. And now with the call it the top 5-10% of this community, heck, call it the top 25% of this community from a socioeconomic standpoint, quaking or shaking with retirement portfolios. That topic on tomorrow's show. This is the I Love CVille show. This is the water cooler of conversation for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. And there's a reason why all the local media outlets are watching the program right now. Bert, Ellis on Wednesday. Judah Wickower, yours truly, Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us.